Hi and welcome. I'm Andi Mioč and you're watching Headlines. Electric vehicle demand has not grown as fast or as big as it was expected. Strict tariffs imposed by the EU on cheaper Chinese battery electric vehicles have made them a less appealing alternative for the European customer. Meanwhile, some automotive industry giants, such as Porsche, are keeping their options open, turning back to combustion engines and hybrid powertrains. The industry of Germany, widely known as producing some of the best cars on the market, is facing a crisis, with production slumping in the last 5 years, and reports of the big three, Volkswagen, Mercedes-Benz and BMW, having their profit fall by a third in the first 9 months of 2024. On EVs, the industry, economy and green future, we're talking to Adelino Dinish, editor at the We Electric, coming to us live from Lisbon. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. Let's start with the need for electric vehicles. The European Green Deal set clear targets to reduce emissions, and obviously electric vehicles are playing a big part. EVs now make up nearly 14% of all cars sold in the EU, but the demand hasn't really grown as fast as expected. What do you make of all that?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here talking to you with you about these subjects. So regarding this, of course, the European Union has very clear objectives that are delayed. And of course, all of this is integrated in a change that needs to be done in several European and economic activities, from the industry, agriculture, and also transportation. So the goal is set for 2035. To stop selling vehicles with local emissions, so tailpipe emissions, and this is a process that, of course, is going to have some moments where it goes forward faster, and others where something seems not to go according to the plan. And it's true that in some markets there is a deceleration of selling of electric vehicles, and there is an adjustment in some of the OEMs that is trying to have a different strategy for the next few years, because of course, as I told you, the end game is actually to stop selling cars with emissions in 2035. So each OEM is going to make his path and to choose the best strategy to achieve that goal, whilst keeping shareholders and customers as happy as possible.
Talking on strategies, are subsidies the way to go? We've seen that removing them in late 2023 in Germany directly led to a sharp drop in sales of all electric cars in the country by about 30%.
Well, subsidies are one of the tools that states and the European Union can actually use to promote the best behavior, or the intended behavior, without a judgment on those changes. And if you look into this, of course, electric vehicles being a new technology is, of course, more expensive. We know that the main component is the battery, and it's much more expensive to produce. And so it makes some sense to actually try and reduce the impact of customers' initial investment with subsidies. They will eventually phase out as they will stop being needed, but at the moment they have a significant importance here. And also on the other side we have tariffs. If we actually want to block competition from, say, China's BEVs, so of course tariffs are also a tool to try to delay that integration in the European market. But of course, there's also a drawback on this, because if Europe does not produce enough electric battery vehicles to fulfill the goals of the Green Deal, and you stop other countries and other sources of competent electric vehicles, of course you're going to have trouble achieving your goals. And so this is a balance that needs to be done. But of course, I personally think that these incentives and these subsidies are important, and they are not only for electric vehicles. Of course, the European Union continues to subsidize fossil fuels in a very significant manner. So all of this needs to be taken into account.
You've mentioned these tariffs. How much of a toll could this competition bring to the climate and the fight against climate change?
Well, electric vehicles have a very clear advantage that is immediate, because there are no tailpipe emissions. So there is no combustion, and without combustion, you don't have the consequences of that operation, that transformation of fuel into gas. And so if you're looking at where the people are, and in Europe, 70 to 75% of people live in the cities. If you take that from the equation, of course, you're going to have a better quality of air. But of course, we need to look into this in a more thorough way. So, of course, battery production is very energy intensive, and there are emissions, of course, related to that, and also to the source of the energy that we use, because electricity doesn't come from it comes from somewhere. So if you're going to produce it from renewable energy like wind, solar and hydro, you're going to have 0 to very little emissions. If you do it by nuclear energy, of course you have other consequences, but also very low emissions. But if you're going to burn petrol, gas or coal to get that electricity, of course there are some emissions in this process. But I think that what we need to make clear is that we are replacing something. So we cannot just look into battery electric vehicles and see, look, this is also very harmful in some ways. So we need to understand that what we're trying to do is to replace fossil fuels, and fossil fuels also have their chain of impact in the ambience, being with the exploration, the prospection, and also transportation. So we're trying to replace one way of using the energy with another one that has less impact on people.
Well, we see in Europe's largest economy, Germany, the car-making business, together with the supply chain, generates around 6% of GDP. The industry supports millions of jobs. What can drops in production and sales across the board we've been witnessing recently from German giants bring not only to the industry but to the economy of Germany and the EU?
Well, this is kind of a perfect storm situation where you have, for instance, a decrease in demand for the luxury sector of the market. You also have an increasingly dropping sales in an important market, which is China. China has been buying less and less European vehicles from this market, and this also comes from the strength of its internal market and the production of high-quality vehicles there. So, and also, of course, you have the energy transition in transportation. So all this taken into account, it might be fair to say that the German auto industry was not able to take the opportunities in this transition, but I think we can remain hopeful that it will catch up. So even if what we're seeing now with Porsche and also with Audi that are delaying a little bit more or relaxing their goals. For instance, Porsche was intended on having 80% of their sales in 2030 being electric vehicles. And so perhaps this is not going to happen. Perhaps there's some delay on catching up and getting this goal. But I think they will get there. And I wouldn't say this change is just a turnaround. This is an adjustment because there's shareholders' pressure. The price of shares of Porsche have been in a steady, slow decline, and all this need to be addressed by management.
Could Porsche's reinvesting in combustion engines and hybrids, could that also be the consequence of a more traditional customer with a more traditional combustion engine taste?
Well, there are several reasons for this, and one of them is actually to understand that Porsche is very focused on driving pleasure, and there are some customers that associate this driving pleasure with the combustion engine. And it's perfectly all right and perfectly fair, because electric vehicles don't react and don't perform in the same way as combustion engines. There's also another question here, which is Porsche presenting very good electric vehicles for the market, whilst not losing the essence of being a Porsche with everything that is associated there. So, and actually, I've driven the Taycan, several of the models, and they are very, very competent. But it is a sports sedan which weighs 2.2 tons. So, and weight is actually the main enemy of a sports car. So we need a bit of an improvement in technology as well. And so this change in strategy, in delaying a little bit more the electric vehicle deployment, might be good for Porsche if, for instance, solid-state batteries come into action, and we are expecting them to come in 2027, perhaps 2028. And this could be good because the energy density, which means the amount of energy that we can get for the same weight, is going to be increasing significantly. And this could be a good opportunity for sports cars to actually be able to electrify without losing the main qualities of agility and fast response. And so I think this is also a good opportunity. So phasing it down and focusing on vehicles like the Taycan and also the Macan electric, which is also a very, very good electric vehicle, still maintaining the qualities of being a Porsche.
You were talking about new technologies which are scheduled to drop soon, let's say it like that. Very expensive technologies. Would you say that for the time being, while we do not have new batteries, that higher sales of hybrids could possibly bring about the desired reduction in emissions, or are battery EVs still the most viable option?
Well, regarding hybrid cars, we have a reduction of about 25% to 30% of emissions using that technology. Some manufacturers actually claim a little bit more, but it's difficult to prove that. From my experience, it's about 25% of a reduction of emissions, and this is very little. So we really need electric vehicles, and electric vehicles produced in a significant amount to make this change happen. Hybrid plug-in vehicles are also very heavy, and they combine both things because they have a bigger battery, but they also demand that the user actually charges the car every day. Otherwise, they will lose their purpose, and this doesn't always happen. I think that at the moment, the electric technology for vehicles actually responds to about 85 to 90% of all the needs of the user. So, but if we're looking at high-performance sports cars, we're still not there yet. So I think this is actually what the progress needs to be done, to lower the cost of batteries, which we can actually now have with iron phosphate batteries that are actually cheaper to produce and also very good with allowing much more cycles and more durability. While we wait to actually technologies like solid-state battery to actually help us with the part of the market that doesn't yet have an answer in terms of battery electric vehicle technology.
Well, Adelino, this was a great talk. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching. This is everything we have for you in this edition of Headlines. Stay tuned to A News.